over here at the 8 o'clock position on Atlantis Spaceship, we have our red Zerg player from Team SCV Life. This is the 14th week he's been on Fight Club. It is HyuN, his opponent here over at the 12 o'clock position from StarTale. You probably see him the finals of IPTL against Incredible Miracle. It is PartinG, our blue Protoss. And just a quick announcement for people as well. Yes, Leenock is our next challenger, and he'll be on in a few weeks because we've got holidays and IPL 5 and stuff like that and drunkenness coming up, so it'll probably be a while before Fight Club comes back. But after that, we'll actually be past the 1-year mark, and so players can start playing again in Fight Club if they've participated before.
Yeah, it's like it's back to the beginning, and HyuN has just won, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
He'll actually probably still be on a steamroll. We'll see if Leenock can take him out, but guys, remember, HyuN beat Life, and Life beat Leenock, so though it was insanely close.
Speaking of guys that could take out HyuN, though, PartinG is tied up against him right now, and I think this guy is going to give him a run for his money. So, I mean, this is kind of a weird map. It's very large. So, as we mentioned before, we talked about it, Zerg players find it very easy to expand all over the place here. There's a lot of paths that aren't revealed by Zelnaka Tower, so good Zergling run-bys can catch players off guard so often here. And it's going to be, you know, a challenge for PartinG to keep map awareness because HyuN just plays so well here.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. Looks like PartinG's going for another Nexus first, as he is so well accustomed to doing. He's also going to try to pylon block this expansion. Oh, wait. No, wait. This is PartinG. It's not Seed. Seed refused to pylon block. We'll see if PartinG decides to get one off.
It's just so difficult to pylon block when you go Nexus first, because the problem is that, well, 6 Zerglings are made and they get there before you can actually put anything up. So a lot of Protoss players will do what we're seeing out of PartinG here. He sits there as long as he possibly can and then has to duck away.
All right, Forge has gone down for PartinG. Should follow that up with a quick gateway and get things rolling. You know, one of the things with PartinG, he does like to play a little greedy in the early game, and it really just makes his plays that much more unpredictable. Because if you're going to go for the Immortal Central and you're like, oh, I need to get this really fast gateway, then your opponent scouts it with their overlay, like, oh, you went for a really fast gateway. Or, you know, it's also the reason you can do things like build a Forge in your main base, which we haven't seen out of him yet, notably, which is, I mean, he does like doing that.
Yes, he does. I think we've seen that in some IPTL matches, actually, this year already. So, yeah, there'd be nothing out of the ordinary, but PartinG for now, he's just going with that conventional wall up at the front. That pylon has been there Nexus first pretty much every time, with the exception of Game 1, where I think it was meant to be, and he just accidentally messed it up. HyuN, on the other hand, he's not deviating from his strategy either. 3 bases coming up, 3rd base actually hitting the exact same second as his last couple of ones did. So, yeah, I mean, HyuN is a very reactionary player, but as we mentioned kind of in the last game, he's reactionary, but then doesn't do things in half measure. So he's like, okay, well, I guess, you know, you're going for this, so here's the counter to that, and I'm just going to make a million of those. And then that's just kind of the way HyuN operates. Yeah,
it's almost a little Jelizer-esque in some regards.
It's like Jelizer
he has the switch.
plus 2 bases. Like, that's basically what it is. Just add 2 bases, and you've got Jelizer.
And HyuN is surprisingly good at holding off bunker rushes, as we saw one day. I forget when it was.
And PartinG is very good about holding off 8 Lings in his base when he goes for a Nexus first.
That was absolutely phenomenal. But all right, so no signs yet. You know, the Cyber Core is getting ready to finish up here in just a second. Knowing PartinG with its completion, we should see a 3rd gas go down somewhere at the natural. Looks like HyuN's going to be working. And will he let it burn? He'll just let it burn.
That's what he does, man. There it is. Every time. Josh actually pointed this out to me. HyuN will sit there, he'll light this supply depot on fire, and then watch the world burn. That's a Stargate coming up for PartinG, though. So not going to offer for that initial, for that robotics facility that we're all anticipating. No, maybe we're going to see a repeat of game number 1.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Twilight Council in the Dark Shrine?
Well, all right, so that's an interesting variation, of course. It worked out well for him the first time, so could be pulling on again, because honestly, he could have won that game if he had played a lot more crisply. Alternatively, it could just be like a Stargate with, you know, a Robo follow-up and a big Immortal Sentry play. It could also be a Stargate expand. So those are the things we're looking at. If we see the Void Ray, I mean, you know what, let's just see. No, it's going to be Phoenix. So harass-based playstyle here. Keep an eye out, of course, for a Twilight Council or anything of that nature. And looks like a Sentry follow-up here, so Mortal Sentry is not out of the question.
Now, HyuN doesn't really have a read on what his opponent is doing at all. And we mentioned before, right, he sees +1, but he doesn't see the 3rd and 4th gas, which is a pretty big tell of your opponent. He doesn't have an Overlord off to the left that he can sacrifice to get in here and try and see anything. And he has a lot of exposed Overlords across the map, which Phoenixes could pick off pretty easily. That being said, HyuN's the kind of guy, as we mentioned in game number 1, he doesn't, I mean, he scouts, but he gets good information, but he operates off of a lot of intuition and makes sure that, you know, he's going to operate his build. It's going to work or it's not going to work. But it doesn't, I mean, he'll react to what you're doing, but he doesn't have to get in there and get early scouting information. Yeah.
No, definitely completely true. He's just so versatile. Say it that way. Lots of gateways going down for PartinG. He's up to 4 now. Any more, and I mean, it feels like he's not going to expand. It could be a big gate. There's no other tech, by the way, guys. It's just a Stargate. And I was really expecting a Stargate expand here, but you know, 4 gateways. It's still definitely possible. That's going to be, and there is a Robo going down with this.
Yeah, and HyuN has read this perfectly. He has 4 Spore Crawlers going up back at home. He's got that Hydralisk Den coming back up as well. We mentioned that he has used this for multiple different games, that he's actually, well, he's not going to pick off either of those Overlords. He's just going to head across the map and try and do damage. That HyuN has decided to go for a Roach Hydralisk build, even when he knows that a 2 base Sentry Immortal play is coming.
So can we just look at the vision real quick of HyuN before he sees anything new? Okay, wow. Yeah, he hasn't seen anything, and yet he threw down Spore Crawlers. Kevin,
that's what I'm saying.
He knew this because no Sentry was made. PartinG makes Sentries with almost all of his builds, especially if he's going for an Immortal Sentry play on 2 bases. There will be a Sentry. HyuN saw the lack of a Sentry and knew he wasn't going for Robo, so determined, all right, he's either going Stargate or he's going for something absolutely crazy. And if he was going for Blink, he would be making Stalkers. He wasn't making anything. That was so intelligent out of HyuN, getting a read just off the lack of PartinG making any units out of his gateway.
And he did another nice thing, too. He actually ran up with a few links to pressure at a time, because PartinG, even when he goes Stargate, still ends up making Sentries. Yes, they're a little bit later, but he still makes them. And he's made 2 rounds of Zerglings. He bypassed Roaches altogether with the intention of killing the first round of units that actually popped out. HyuN is playing...
Which he just did right there.
And denied the 3rd base.
So... everything PartinG wanted to do here is completely smothered in the sand right now. He just lost 3 Sentries, 2 Zealots, had to cancel his 3rd, lost a Pylon, and has he done anything with these Phoenix yet, really?
No, I mean, he killed, let's see, 3 workers.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, he killed 1 worker.
Actually, yeah, HyuN killed 3 workers. This is not a good game for PartinG. I'm so impressed with HyuN right now and how absurd his read was on this build.
Yeah, and not only that, he's got that creep line extending across the map to get Hydralisk there quicker, and he's going to go for a big old Hydralisk bust, and it doesn't really matter what these Sentries do, because they're not going to be all that effective, especially with the Zerglings there. This is looking really, really tough for PartinG at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, PartinG is a really big... He's an advocate of, you know, I have this crisp, clean execution, and this is how things work. And everything has just fallen apart at this moment. So here comes HyuN, guys. Lots of Hydras. Absolutely no way to deal with this. Does PartinG have possession of? I mean, he's got no Splash. He's got no Archons, no Colossi. Doesn't even have a Robo on the field. He's just going to try to master something, mesh something together, excuse me, with some Blink Stalkers, I guess.
Yeah, but the problem is that HyuN all the while is going up to Aspire. He's even got Roaches following this up, a 4th base. So HyuN, he can get in here and continue to do damage, which he might want to do. But honestly, he doesn't even have to kill his opponent right here. He's got plenty of outs. He's got plenty of gas saved up. We're going to see potentially a bunch of Mutas here in a second, and see what he does with all that gas.
This is just so difficult. I mean, PartinG, he's looking pretty dead right now. He can't engage this army. The Hydras now have Roaches joined up with them. Maybe if he came up, you know, if the Hydras got in a real thin line, yeah, and you saw like, oh, well, here we go. Force fields. Actually, those are some nice force fields out of PartinG. Does cut off a nice majority of forces. See the Hydras isolated on the right. He's going to pick up a couple of them. Small victory there for PartinG for sure.
Yeah, only loses 1 Phoenix to show for it too, and he's got a good number of Blink Stalkers ready. But now HyuN can just move into unit production mode. He's making another 18 Roaches. They're all running across the map. He's got to watch that he doesn't trade too cost inefficiently, but he still does have a lot of DPS in these Hydras here, picking off these 1 by 1.
Yeah, and I mean, we see HyuN's just pouring units, and he really does not seem too concerned with losing stuff, which could be a little bit of a problem for him in the near future, because Well, the thing isn't necessarily the amount of units that PartinG has on the field. It's his bank. He was just sitting on 1,500. Now he's continuing to warp in boatloads of Stalkers. And, I mean, has he, like... Did he just like make it look like, oh, look, I'm really weak. You can push me, and then dumps about 2,000 resources into Stalkers?
I don't necessarily think so. I think HyuN just kind of made not a great decision to move in there. I mean, that certainly is a possibility, but look, as soon as HyuN left, another Nexus went down. I mean, so I think these Stalkers were basically just like, I don't have anything else to spend money on. He had cut workers at 62. It's not like he was overproducing with the intention of just moving up. I don't really know. I mean, it's a tough spot for PartinG. He made the best of a bad situation, but now HyuN, he's sitting on 4 bases. He's got his Spire tech in play. +1 weapons is just about to finish. You can throw down an Infestation Pit and go up to Hive pretty easily, as he'll be working off of 8 gas. 9 gas, actually, if you include the Rich Vespian Geyser.
All right, well, HyuN's pretty much maxed out right now. Robotics Bay is a little more than halfway done. PartinG's not going to have it in time for this attack, and it's going to be a pretty powerful attack. Does he have Carapace? Does HyuN just have +1? Okay, he's
+1.
Only got +1 missile attacks. And PartinG, if we take a look, did not get to complete +2, so engagement inbound, folks. Lots of roaches right now for HyuN, and a nice sprinkle of Hydras as well.
And HyuN has always been kind of the master of just throwing waves of aggression at you, and he doesn't really care if they trade the most efficiently in the world, so long as he's continuing to deny you, contain you, etc. This is still going to be a tough position for him, though. Cruise Spine's finished. Okay, yeah, just making sure, so he will be able to match the range of the Stalkers, if nothing else.
I mean, he's going to kill this Nexus down bottom. This fight's going to last for a really long time. It should fall before that, and PartinG's going to lose his base here, so yeah. That's you're gonna have a 4-base Zerg, guys, versus a 2-base Protoss, excuse me. Yeah. This is not a good spot once again for PartinG.
There's no way for PartinG to save this, unfortunately. There's another 52 Lings that are charging across the map at the moment, and these Hydras are actually powerful enough, and they haven't really been taken down, that the Stalkers are getting very, very weak, and now that the Zerglings are right upon them, that's gonna be it. Yep. PartinG GG's, and HyuN goes up 2-1.
Yeah, that was just a great game for HyuN all around. Let's go back to why HyuN threw down Spore Crawlers. So, floating over the gateway, we mentioned, didn't even try to scout the gas.
Right.
Why didn't he try to scout the gas? He didn't, he had other overlords around the map, could have tried to go into the main, but honestly, I think there was just such a big tell in the fact that the gateway wasn't making anything almost every time. I mean, PartinG, he loves these timing pushes, and the key to timing pushes is get out as many units as you possibly can. If that gateway's not functioning, it's for one reason, and one reason only. He's teching behind it, and he's definitely not going robo, because when he goes robo, he's making units, because he either intends to expand or do some sort of push, so your only alternatives there really are Dark Templar or Stargate.
But HyuN, still, even if it had been something weird, like let's say he had actually been putting down a robo or something like that, HyuN was still prepared, because he still had the unit composition that he needed, that he would normally use to actually defend some sort of an Immortal Centurion, and he was going to those Hydralisks, he was getting all of his upgrades in place, so HyuN just had a great read overall. And that's game number 3. We're going to go into game number 4 here in just a second after a quick commercial break. When we get back, the map is going to be in Tomb Valley. We'll see if PartinG can start to rally back here and tie things up once again.